Hi class of 2020, I hope you're doing really well and are in full throttle with finishing off your IAs, EEs, and TOK essays. I've been meaning to reach out to all of you since I heard about the cancellation of the exams, but I've been waiting for us to be fully clear about what is to happen now, and for the school to communicate all of that before I really did talk to you about and address the cancellation of the exams. I know a lot of you are experiencing really mixed emotions right now. Some of you are relieved because you don't have to stress out about preparing for those exams, and on the other hand, a lot of you might be rightfully disappointed because you've been working 2 years in preparation for these exams. Regardless of what you're feeling, I think I can understand to a very large extent, and you might be thinking, Misty, of course you don't, and none of you guys understand what we're experiencing, and maybe not, but I think having done the IB itself, I can meet you halfway and understand possibly what is going on in your head and how you're feeling. Yeah, so this video, I think I will be speaking more from the perspective of someone who's done the IB as opposed to your school counselor, but definitely that still is part of it. But to begin with, I thought to myself, what would I feel if this was me? This was me doing the IB exams or preparing for the IB exams or just doing the IB, and the exams got cancelled for unforeseeable circumstances or reasons, and my first reaction would definitely be disappointment, because I remember having worked really hard building up to that exam in those 2 years, and to have it canceled was something I would be very disappointed with. Yeah, but I've tried thinking beyond that feeling of disappointment and realized, and I mean, this is not something I've realized now, but also something that I was reminded of, which was the fact that the final exam, yes, it was a very important part of the IB, but it was only a part of the IB. There was so much more to the IB that made the experience what it was than just the final exams. And I think for me, what was my experience of it, or what was my process and so on, was way more important, and that is something I would like to address in this video. But before we get to that, I want to focus on what is the now for you. Yes, there are emotions, and maybe again some of you are completely relieved and some of you are still disappointed, or some of you don't even know how to react, and I think all of those are definitely normal ways to react to such a situation. But the truth is, you do have control, more control than you would have if you had the exams over your grade right now, because all of it depends on internal assessments and coursework. So considering that, I think a lot of your resources, efforts, and attention and focus should be on improving your essays and improving your assignments to the best of your capacity, so that you are able to do well on the and get a good getting a good grade. So yeah, I think right now all efforts should be on that, and I don't mean to sound preachy, but I think that would be the best case scenario. And I think if you look at it in terms of costs and benefits, definitely the biggest benefit is that a lot of this is in your control, and hopefully that is a motivating factor for you to improve what is to be improved. Yeah. And moving on from there, again, like I said, the final exam was only a part of the IB. It is only a part of your experience of the IB. If I had to look back at who I was as a person, or the skills that I had as a person before the IB and what I was like at the end of IB, I think there was a stark difference, and there was tremendous growth that I experienced during the 2 years that I did IB. And I think those skills, or those things that I learned and those experiences that I had, were something that I carried on to university, and also think influenced the person I am, or the capabilities I have right now in life as someone who's working. So to begin with, university, and I think a lot of people who have done the IB will agree with what I have to say, is that the first 2 years in university, or at least the first year in university, definitely seems a little more easy breezy for people who have done the IB as opposed to who haven't, because the skills and the kind of assignments and the kind of rigor that you experience with all these different things that you have to multitask with and manage, right, time manage and stress manage with, is basically kind of how university is going to be and how work is, right? So you are already used to the rigor. You are already skilled enough to begin your university life in a better position than a lot of people who might not have these skills. So definitely looking at those skills and reflecting on what you have learned during this time is important, and I think a point of appreciation that could move you forward or move you beyond disappointment or the current emotions or reactions that you're experiencing. So I would love to hear from you guys what your starting point was, how you were 2 years ago, and what you think has changed now, right? And what has your growth looked like since then? So definitely a conversation I would love to have with all of you. And maybe if we could create a Padlet and share with each other, that would also be great to see the different perspectives everyone has had. So in terms of work, again, like I said, the IB has been rigorous for all of us, regardless of our capabilities in terms of aptitude and grade and potential. Everyone that does the IB has some amount of struggle, right? Or a large amount of struggle, if not torture. But definitely understanding rigor in life and preparing for rigor in life has a lot to do with the IB, and I think I feel better equipped even today, having kind of accepted that, life is rigorous. It has a lot of demands, which is what IB has on you as students and has had on all students. So coming to accept that in life in general, IB can prepare you for the rigor, and that life is rigorous, definitely again puts you at a plus or at a higher position or in a better position than a lot of people who might not have experienced that yet. So yeah, and a lot of people might not agree, but grades don't define you and don't define your worth and what you're capable of. Yes, grades are indicative of your performance, but it is not all that it is. In all honesty, I didn't do as well I was expecting to do in my final exams, and again, initially that was really disappointing because I did work really hard, but honestly, no one really is going to choose you based on your grade, beyond university, that is. Okay, and again, universities also are not depending only on your grade, and we know that because they expect your personal statements on what you've experienced, the kind of person you are, what your expectations are, right? So definitely grades don't define you as a person. So I think the current situation is ideal for that, and to also understand that there is so much more than just a number, right? And moving forward from that, I know that a lot of you are quite bummed out because this is not the ideal way to finish off high school, and I would agree, and I'm sorry that it has to be that way, and this is something that is really not in our control, because it would have been better if you were with your friends and you were spending these last few months having fun with them and going through this process with them, and unfortunately it hasn't been that way. And I can't say anything that will make that better or that can change that, but again, to be a little better than completely being disappointed is trying to spend time with your friends right now, even if that's over call. Definitely something that might be better than nothing, and also reflecting on all the good times that you've had with them, focusing on the good times as opposed to what is not in your control right now or what is something that cannot be changed right now. So spend time with your friends, even if you can, for half an hour every day, because once you move on to university, you might not be able to keep in touch with these people that have meant so much to you in the past, how many ever years you've spent at AIC. So it is definitely something that you should try doing and putting a little more effort into. Yeah, and finally, I think this is going to be a little more advice that would be with regards to university. University is demanding, right? But and also I think you have a lot of control over how you shape your experience there. You could choose just to go to class and go do well in class, and that's okay, right? That's okay. But from my experience, I think a lot of learning happens outside class, from being involved in debate clubs, or being involved in the student council in university, or being a part or trying out for varsity teams. I found a lot more of myself, and grew as a person, and had experience with leadership based on what I did outside class. And this would extend to also my choice to do internships during, and part-time work during university, because you really will not know. Yes, you are like you've chosen a certain field that you're going into. I chose psychology, and even in the fields that you've chosen, they're still pretty broad. And each of these fields are so multifaceted and have so many options that you can specialize in. So for you to really know what you're going to enjoy, it'll take experience, and it's trial and error. It truly is, because you couldn't possibly know until you've tried what you are good at, what brings you satisfaction, and what doesn't, right? So definitely putting an effort into finding internships and work experience during your time to explore the different fields, even in that area that you have chosen for yourself, so that you can make the better judgment of what you should do for a living, right? And I think a very important thing that I learned in life, and I'm sure a lot of you might have heard of this from other people, is that regardless of how much effort you're putting, if you're not experiencing any satisfaction from what you're doing, it becomes very difficult. And I fortunately learned that very early on in university, again through the experience of having done things that I enjoyed, some that I didn't really enjoy. So yeah, satisfaction and happiness is so important regardless, and at least to me, it has been very important, more than anything else. So having decided the field that I wanted to work in was all dependent on trial and error, and experiencing firsthand these different areas. So that is my advice for all of you. Do more than just class. Do things beyond class. That's where your learning is. That's where you make connections, and you make family, and you have fun. And also do work, actual work again. There's a whole joke about how jobs and employers want experience, but how are you to have experience without having a job, right? But getting in those few months of internship during this time, during your university time, is definitely putting you in a better position to be employed. So yeah, these are my thoughts, and I hope this hasn't been too preachy. I've just been trying to convey what I've thought about this whole process, and tried being honest in what I have to say to you. So I hope this was helpful for most of you, or some of you at least. And if you have any thoughts and things to share with me, I would love to hear from you, and to talk things out if you have things that you want to share.